good morning. Let's start our morning with a smile. I hope you are all doing great today. Let's proceed with our topic, and it's all about issuance and storage of apparatus, chemicals, tools, and equipment. Okay, in the picture you can see the laboratory chemicals, some equipment, apparatus, glasswares that we usually see in the laboratory. Now, before we proceed, let's go to the objective of our lesson. So, at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to know and apply the process of issuing and safety storage of chemicals, apparatus, tools, and equipment, and also for the students to understand the importance of proper issuance of chemicals, tools, apparatus, and equipment. Alright, so let's go directly to issuance of materials in the lab. You can see the laboratory in the picture, and the lab is where the students perform their experiments or activities, and they needed some chemicals, equipment, and apparatus in order to perform their laboratory experiments. Now, in the issuance of laboratory items, we need the laboratory technician. So the laboratory technicians are responsible for safekeeping and lending of all equipment that are used in the teaching lab, and all pieces of equipment necessary for experiments and activities may be borrowed from the technician at the lab or at the stockroom. Now, before the student will be able to borrow, he or she should present an ID, and he should wear also a lab gown or face mask, goggles, or the student should wear proper protective equipment. Now, the student who will borrow should only borrow the pieces of equipment which are specified in their experiment by the supervision of their teacher or instructor. So without the supervision of the instructor, any student cannot be able to borrow anything from the lab. So in the picture, at the right portion, we see at the middle is the laboratory technician, and the lab technician shall provide a laboratory form for the student to indicate or write down all the items that they needed in their experiments, and the borrower, including her or his group mates, are the ones responsible for the items that they have borrowed. Alright, so another thing that we need to consider in issuing is that the student who will borrow shall only carry long pieces of equipment to their room and vice versa, vertically, in a vertical position, and he or she should not carry too much. Another thing is the borrower and his groupmates are held responsible for all the pieces of equipment borrowed from the stockroom or lab, as I mentioned earlier, and the pieces of equipment borrowed must be returned upon completion of the experiment. So whatever damages, or if they were able to break something, they have to replace it. Now let's go to the proper storage of tools and equipment. You can see some of the tools at the right portion of your screen, and that's how tools are properly stored, and they were placed in a proper position. So in storing tools, store all tools and equipment in their designated places. So there are places designated for tools and equipment only. We have to put them in their proper location, proper places, so that nothing will be scattered. Okay, so put frequently used items in conveniently accessible locations, and gather and secure electrical cords to prevent entanglement or snagging, and that's for safety purposes. Okay, so there are steps on proper storage of tools and equipment, and one of those were the ones I had mentioned earlier. But let's go with the other steps. So first we have, again, we have a designated place for each kind of tools. Label the storage cabinet or place correctly for immediate finding. That's for an easy access. You have to label, put the name of the tool or equipment, write the name and the specific location where you need to put it or store it, and store them near the point of use, so that if you need them, you can get them anytime, and it would not be time consuming. Okay, another, wash and dry properly before storing. So before the students will return the item, they have to wash it very well and dry them properly before returning or giving back to the stockroom personnel or lab personnel. For store knives, okay, another is store knives properly when not in use with sharp edge down. So the position should be downward, because if it's upward, usually we grab the knife at the top. We pull it from the top. So if you do it upward, if you store the knife with its sharp edge upward, then there's a tendency that the one who will be grabbing it will get wounded. So it prevents accidents. And put frequently used items in conveniently accessible locations. Another is gather and secure electrical cords to prevent entanglement or snagging, which we had mentioned earlier. And cutting boards should be stored vertically to avoid moisture collection. So if we do it horizontally, the water or the moisture will not get dry fast. So metal equipment also can be stacked on one another after drying, such as storage dishes and bowls. And make sure the areas where you are storing the equipment are clean, dry, and not overcrowded. Because if it's overcrowded, then there's a tendency of mixing up, and it's not easily accessible. You will be having a hard time to find the items that we need. Alright, so for preservation storage of materials, for apparatuses, the numerous small items found in the lab are usually kept in drawers or trays. So we need drawers and trays for small items. And optical items such as lenses, mirrors, prisms, they should be kept in drawers with packets of silica gel. That's to maintain dryness, because we don't want moisture for our lenses and mirrors and prisms. And the bigger apparatus should be arranged in the shelves, wherein the heavy ones are placed below, and the light ones on top. Why? Because if in case the heavy ones shall fall down, it will not cause much damage, and for the lighter ones, if they fall down, there will be less damage of apparatuses. And stitching aids are usually stored in cupboard or visible windows. For the importance of proper storage of tools and equipment, it is an important factor for safety and health, as well as good business, for protection of personnel, for the good of the students, and it improves appearance of general shop and construction areas. Also, it reduces overall tool costs through maintenance. As we all know that most of the lab equipment or stockroom equipment are costly, they are expensive, so we have to make sure that we take care of them, so we will not buy again and again. And this also ensures the tools are indeed prepared at hand and teaches workers principles of accountability. So whoever will use it or borrow it, they are accountable for it. For creating a safe place to work, we have to provide proper storage for tools, fuels, chemicals, waste materials. Because if we have the improper storage of these items, then there is a tendency of accidents and mixing up of items. We have to keep work areas clean and free of tools, materials, grease, and dirt. Keep moving parts properly shielded and manage all situations to avoid the likelihood of falling objects. So again, it boils down to safety and for protection of personnel and as well as the equipment. Now, let's proceed to chemical storage. The chemicals should be handled with caution. Alright? So we have to be very cautious in handling chemicals. So we see in the picture the proper storage of chemicals. We have the shelves, the specific or specialized shelves, and the refrigerator, and also we can see that it's organized, it's clean, and nice to see. We have guidelines for chemical storage. So in addition to eliminating hazard that may arise with the use of chemicals, an appropriate chemical storage system must be developed, and proper storage will increase the chances of accident occurring. Some examples of improper storage include storage of chemicals in alphabetical order. The most common way that we usually do when we store items is to do it in an alphabetical way, but it's not always the case, because for chemicals, they should be categorized in group according to their compatibility, and we will go further to that as we go along. And next is storage of flammables in an ordinary refrigerator. So as we have mentioned in the first part of our topic, there are designated storage for specific items. For flammables, they have a specialized refrigerator. And do not just put the flammables anywhere. Next, storage of chemicals with food. We should not mix our food with the chemicals. I remember when I was an intern in the hospital, because I'm a medical technologist, so I had a chance to have my internship in the hospital laboratory. Some of my co-interns store their food in the storage refrigerator where chemicals and some human specimens are being stored, which is not the proper way. But during those times, we don't have a refrigerator for interns, so it's very tempting, to just put your food in the storage area where chemicals are being stored. So, well, I hope the others will not do the same, because some of the chemicals are very toxic and we don't want to affect our health. Right. So those in the picture, in the screen, you can see some examples of improper storage, mixing flammables to non-flammables, um, mixing biohazardous chemicals to non-hazardous, and you can see overcrowding. It's not well organized. It's dirty. So for proper storage, we can see that it's nice to see. It's orderly. It's very neat, and they have a specialized storage cabinet, shelves. So there, we have to see to it that chemicals are properly stored. So as we mentioned earlier, we have the proper way of storing and labeling the chemicals. As we said, it should not be labeled alphabetically, but according to their group of compatibilities. So letter A are the compatible organic bases. We label them as compatible organic bases. B, compatible water reactive materials. C, compatible inorganic bases. D, compatible organic acids. E, compatible oxidizers. F, compatible inorganic acids. G, they are the flammable or combustible chemicals. J, poison, compressed gases. K, compatible explosives or other highly unstable material. L, non-reactive flammable. And X, incompatible with all other strong groups. So that's how we label according to their storage groups for chemicals. Alright, here are some more examples of putting chemicals, apparatuses, and other equipment in their designated storage places. So, with the storage of chemicals and biomaterials in biology laboratories, we need to separate the infectious materials or etiologic agents, disease-causing agents, certain toxins, and other hazardous biological materials from each other. Okay, because they cause hazard to our health. And in storing, we have to look for unusual conditions in storage area. Examples are improper storage of chemicals. We have to we have to store them properly. If there are leaking or in deteriorating containers, we have to put them aside, remove them, or fix them. And then, if we see spilled chemicals, we have to clean them before storing. And if there are lack or low lighting levels, we have to fix the lights. We have to inform the personnel in charge. And if there are blockage of exits or aisles, we have to unblock them. If doors are blocked or open and it causes a lack of security, we need to inform the security department or the personnel in charge, person in charge. If there are trash accumulation, we have to throw them and dispose them in their proper disposal areas. If there are open lights or matches that needed to be switched off, if lights are not necessary, we have to switch off. And if there are fire equipment blocked, broken, or missing, we have again to inform the right person in charge. And if there are lack of information or warning signs like flammable liquids, acids, corrosives, poisons, we have to label them properly. If we see extreme temperature, if it's too hot or too cold in the storage area, we need to determine it. We have to figure out what's needed to be done. And we have to inform the person in charge. Take note, again, label all these items to avoid mixing up. And for chemicals, separate chemicals into their organic and inorganic families, and then interrelated and compatible groups. So why do we need to label the equipment, tools, chemicals? So just like the importance of product labels to consumers, we are in a grocery store, we can see proper labeling of food is also the same with the chemicals, so that when we use it, we can easily access it, and it saves time and effort. Alright, so we should know how to label the items, the equipment in the lab, and to label, and if we have to use the labels of storage code, the hazardous material identification system is in the screen. So we have there the code, labeling code, red for hazardous flammable chemicals, and so we need to store in area segregated for flammable reagents. For blue, they are health hazard, toxic if inhaled, and so we need to store them in secure area. For yellow code, they are reactive and oxidizing agents. That's why we have to store them away from flammable and compactable materials. For white code, they are corrosive chemicals and that may harm the skin. So we have to store away from red-coded, yellow-coded, and blue-coded reagents. Lastly, but not the least, the gray code. They are present no more than moderate hazard for general chemical storage. Okay, so those are the storage codes that we can use when we do the labeling, and we have the hazard symbols as well. You can see the symbol for explosive, the chemicals that explode, for oxidizing, those that react exothermically with other chemicals, the extremely flammable symbol, highly flammable symbol, toxic, harmful, corrosive, irritant symbol, and the dangers for the environment. Well, if we know the symbols, then even if we don't know the specific item, we would know if they are hazardous or not. So we keep away from them and we store them properly. Alright, so to wrap up, the improper storage or mixing of chemicals can result in serious accidents and even disasters. Now, for storage safety, it has always been an issue relevant to three principal parameters, and these are the chemical products, storage, staff responsible, and for chemical products, we have to see to it that we do the proper handling, we properly use the chemical products and dispose the chemical products properly. Also, in storing the chemicals, equipment, and apparatuses, we have to place them in their designated storing location, storing area, with proper conditioning. For staff responsible, they should be experienced and well trained. Alright, so we should not forget the use of proper protective equipment for personal protection. So when we handle materials, we will not be vulnerable to accidents or whatsoever danger, and we have to know how to properly label the materials. So again, for chemicals, they are not in alphabetical order, but label them according to their group of compatibilities. And other things that we need to consider for material storage or potential hazards. So there should be no tripping hazards, no falling objects, no structural defects, no sharp objects, no evidence of spillage or leakage. And we need to see to it that the materials should be cleaned up and they should be in their proper disposal. Alright. So there you can see in the picture a student or a person with proper protective equipment and how to properly dispose the items there. So you see, it's very important that we have to consider proper issuing and storage of materials, because in this way we could be able to secure ourselves and also the equipment and chemicals. So that's about our topic. Thank you so much and enjoy your day. God bless everyone.